Hello everyone. This video has a twofold purpose. Number one is some of you may have heard about the Walkaway movement, the hashtag Walkaway movement, and that's a lot of people who were Democrats for a long time have walked away from the party. That's something that I have done, although it was a while ago. But they've made videos documenting that and even giving some explanation why, and that's part of the reason I'm doing this now. The other purpose, honestly, is that I know there are people on my Facebook, friends, family, etc., who are reading some of my posts lately and wondering, David, what the hell happened to you? Well, let me assure you, first of all, that nothing has happened to me. But I want to give an explanation of, why I feel the way I feel, what's been going on with my thought process this last year, and why I left the Democrat Party to begin with. Now, I want to try to keep this video relatively short, and there's no way I can give a complete, comprehensive list in 20 minutes or so. So I'm going to skip around on a lot of things, and my goal here is just to give an outline. I was I was pro-Democrat for a very long time, from as far back as I can remember until about maybe 10 years ago, maybe a little bit more. So through grade school, high school, college, I was very apolitical. I really could, Mike, I went to, a small technical school that was about as apolitical as you can get, which I was. And yet, every 4 years, I would go into the voting booth, and I would do my duty. I would just vote D, 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 all the way down the line. That's the way I was. Last Democrat I voted for, at least for president, was Obama, and that was 2008. I quickly had a lot of second thoughts, and that's kind of where I want to pick up the story. So, up till about 2008, 2009, I bought into every caricature, every disgusting straw man caricature of conservatives and Republicans. Evil, greedy, racist, money over people, religious, Bible-thumping zealots. I believed all of it. Although I have to admit, there were a few, even during those early years, there were a few Republicans I did respect. I always liked Ron Paul. I remember thinking in 2008 or whenever he ran, 2008, 2012, 2008, I remember thinking if there's one Republican I could vote for, it's Ron Paul, because he's just not like the rest of them. He wants freedom, right? I remember in '96, I kind of liked what Steve Forbes was saying, make taxes simpler, and that. So a lot of that stuff appealed to me. And it was December 2009, and again, this was kind of the beginning of the beginning, mostly. I was always a big fan of Jay Leno, right? So I would watch his show regularly every night, and this was at the time I think he was not on the Tonight Show, but he was on the 10 o'clock show, and he would sometimes have on guests like Bill O'Reilly and Glenn Beck. He would have them on sometimes. It was a different age, right? But I remember very distinctly, it was one night, I think it was in December 2009, and this was kind of the beginning of my transformation. He had Jay Leno had Glenn Beck on the show, and I was thinking the same thing many of you are probably thinking right now. Oh, God, I got to listen to this guy. But something inside me says, David, just wait, just hear him out. Just listen. Besides the fact I was sitting on my bed and I'd lost the remote. So anyway. And, as the interview progressed, I started to realize, hey, wait a second. He's making a lot of sense. He just wants freedom, low taxes, low government, let people make decisions for themselves. And I just had an epiphany at that point. Now, I didn't turn conservative right away. I still don't really consider myself a conservative, but anyway. But it really started to get me thinking, and a lot of things started to click into place. And it's really not surprising. Even as a kid, I had a very libertarian, rebellious streak. Why do I have to follow these rules? Why do I have to do homework? Why do I need a hall pass? Why all these rules in school? I hated following rules. I won't say I hated authority, but I was always very skeptical of authority. I never took things at face value. I didn't like following rules. I hated rules. I hated conformity. And so a lot of this really isn't surprising. A lot of this kind of clicked together. And, I started to do my own research. I started to listen to opposing viewpoints. I started to listen to, let's listen to conservative talk radio a little bit, just hear what they have to say. And I didn't like everything at first. I found myself a little resistant, but gradually. Now, what you might be thinking is, well, Dave, you're just gullible, right? I mean, you listen to the conservatives and you just believe them and it converted you. Well, I thought about that, but if that were the case, then if I listen to, if I watch MSNBC right now, I should be easily converted back, and that did not happen. So there's my little experiment. My change is a mixture. It's a mixture of a couple of things. Now, I never understood, why Ronald Reagan, when he said I didn't leave the Democrat Party, the Democrat Party left me. I never understood that at the time, but now I do, because I think it really does apply to me. I went further right on a few things since my younger days, particularly on things like economics, budget, taxes. They say a couple of sayings. They say if you're not a liberal at 16, you have no heart. If you're not a conservative at 60, you have no head. Let me just be very clear on another thing here. I am not a registered Republican. Actually, technically in Washington, we don't register parties here. So I mean, everyone's independent, technically. But I do not consider myself a Republican. I do not consider myself a conservative. I want to make that very clear. I have big problems with the Republican Party, and I have big problems with the conservative movement. Much of this draws around social policy, war on drugs, same-sex marriage, the conservative obsession with religion for everything. So there are certainly things that I'm still very progressive on. But I think that a lot of it is the Democrat Party just slipped out from under me. If I had to characterize my political leanings, I would probably say classical liberal, or right-leaning libertarian, or the new term coming out now is conservatarian. So, I'm liberal on things like social issues. Like I said, war on drugs, same-sex marriage. I'm conservative when it comes to things like national defense and budget and economics and low taxes and small government. I think we need to control our border a lot better than we're doing. My motto is liberty first. Do whatever you want to do as long as you're not hurting someone else. And I think the Democrats and Republicans have some inconsistencies, both of them, because Democrats will claim to be for same-sex marriage and drug legalization. That's all fine and good. But then they'll make it their business how much money you earn, or whether you own a gun or not, or whether you have to wear a mask in public. Republicans, on the other hand, will leave you free economically, but they'll put themselves into your bedroom and in your medicine cabinet. So neither party has it right, truly. So I have problems with both parties. I want to make that clear. And I think most Americans are libertarians, even if they don't know it. I think we have in this country a sense of independence, a sense of don't tell me how to live my life. And I think we need to apply that consistently across the board. If it's none of the government's business what you put in your own body or who you marry, it's also none of the government's business whether you own a gun or not, or how much money you make, or whether you want to keep your earnings without paying half your money to taxes. Or at least if you do, make sure they're well spent. So like I said, I was a loyal Democrat for a very long time, but I got to tell you, the main thing is I don't recognize this party anymore. This is not the Democrat Party of 20 years ago. Some of you are Democrat voters, and, you assume that this is, well, we'll just get Trump out, and if Biden doesn't work out, we'll just vote him out in 4 years. You have a tilt to the right and a tilt to the left. That's how American politics works. I'm here to tell you, if you put the Democrats in power, it's not going to be a tilt to the left. It's going to be a capsize, because they have changed, and not for the better. Like I said, I think it's more a case of the Democrats leaving me than my leaving the Democrats. I think they've just gone so far off the rails. And there are no moderates left, at least in Congress. They become, we used to have a blue dog Democrats. I mean, we still do in name, but we used to have moderate and conservative Democrats. But the blue dogs, people like Joe Lieberman, Zell Miller, Scoop Jackson, Barbara Jordan, even former New York City Mayor Ed Koch, they're gone. There are no more moderating influences within the party. So the far left, the Bernie Sanders wing, which had kind of been dormant for maybe 100 years, now has no check on them at all. They have free reign, thanks to the media, which no one can deny is left-wing biased. And there's no one to push back anymore. There's no moderating voices. Name one Democrat who stood up and pushed back on the socialism of AOC, or the Green New Deal, or supporting defending our borders, or fixing our VA, or moving the American embassy to Jerusalem. Name one Democrat who said, well, let's wait and see if there's some evidence of Russian collusion. Let's not jump to conclusions, or let's just get Brett Kavanaugh's side of the story first, and then we'll make a decision. No, you don't see that. There's no moderation. This is, I gotta tell you, this is not the party of FDR or JFK. It's not even the party of Bill Clinton. This has become a far left, socialist, Marxist group based on identity politics, and who considers, I hate to say this, illegal aliens are now more important than American citizens. You don't believe me? Nancy Pelosi is now proposing a phase 4 for coronavirus, $2 trillion package, and that money is designed to be given away to illegal aliens. California, your governor, Gavin Newsom, asked the federal government for $1 trillion, and most of that is going to illegal aliens. People have, well, okay, fine, everyone deserves relief, but come on, you got to put the American citizens first. It's just common sense. It's American taxpayer money. We are not world citizens. And when you look at all their policies, throwing the borders open, socialism, Green New Deal, even things like abortion, which I've always considered myself kind of centrist on. I mean, now it's post-birth abortion. The governor of Virginia saying, well, once the baby's born, then the doctor and the mother will make a decision. Make a decision for what? Where to go out for dinner? Come on! They're talking about killing babies after they come out of the womb. I'm sorry, I've always been pro-choice, but this is ridiculous. This is off the scale. How could an open socialist like Bernie Sanders, twice come so close to the nomination? The Democrats cannot condemn anti-Semitic, anti-Israel, anti-American sentiment in their own party. You have people like Ilhan Omar, BDS movement, Jews. It's all about the Benjamins. They oppose moving the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. And I'm speaking to my Jewish brothers and sisters and family members out here. How any Jew could vote Democrat from this point on is beyond my comprehension. Especially the way they're cozying up to the Islamic community. Really? You still vote for these guys? Again, you saw, I watched the first Democrat debate. 10 out of 10 hands went up when the question was asked, Would you favor free universal health care to illegal aliens? All 10 hands went up. We can't afford that for citizens. It's unaffordable. Pelosi wants $3 trillion relief package for stimulus checks to illegal aliens. But they have no issue with small business owners and employees losing their jobs and livelihoods as she goes on TV bragging about her gourmet ice cream collection. Sanctuary cities, let me ask you this. What law can a U.S. citizen break? And let's assume a felony. What felony can a U.S. citizen commit and not be separated from their family? What law can a U.S. citizen break and get sanctuary in a particular city or state? Tell me that. They favor the illegal aliens over the citizens. You got state governments and city governments saying you're not allowed to work with ICE anymore. They want to defund the police. They want to defund the Border Patrol. This is serious stuff. Our cities are on fire. Seattle had a whole section of the city taken over by armed thugs, and our governor and their mayor have done nothing about it. They look the other way. This is who the Democrats are. This is who they become. These are not the Bill Clinton Democrats anymore. These are not JFK. JFK would be a Republican if he were alive today. I'm not saying he would literally make that his party, but I'm saying ideologically he was a tax cutter. He was pro-military. He was anti-communist. You're not seeing that these days. If the two parties can't even agree on the goodness of our country, on the benefits of capitalism, if we can't agree that we need to have borders, where do you go from there? For those of you out there who still vote Democrat, thinking that this is still the party of 20 years ago, if you think you can give power to these people and you'll always enjoy your first world lifestyle, if you think you can, we'll just vote Biden out in 4 years if he doesn't work out. You need to wake up. You really need to wake up and look around. Check your sources. I'm not saying you should all, drop CNN and start watching Fox News. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying ask questions, research these things. Because these are not the Democrats of old. There are no more moderates left. There's no one left to hold the far left, socialist, Marxist wing. If I went back in time 50 years, 60 years, the height of McCarthyism, and I appeared before Congress, the 1950s, and I said, 60 years from now, 70 years from now, you're going to have open socialists serving in Congress, I don't think they would believe me. They wouldn't, and why should they? But that's where we are. We got people openly preaching socialism, the Green New Deal, spending trillions of dollars that we don't have on people who aren't supposed to be here, mortgaging our children's futures. I went, I had a pretty good education. They taught us history. They taught us about the Founding Fathers and the Constitution. This was before Columbus Day and Thanksgiving Day became celebrations of genocide, right? This is before we had gender-neutral bathrooms and 50 different genders and gender fluid, and boys can be girls and girls can be boys, and America's evil and capitalism is evil, and the New York Times, look up the New York Times 1619 Project. They're trying to destroy this country. They're trying to tear it apart. You look at BLM, you look at Antifa, you look at the cities burning. You look at this taking apart of American culture, of our history, the tearing down of statues. This is who the Democrats are. They are taking this country apart. And as long as I have breath, I will stand up for the goodness of this country that I was taught to love and I still love. And anything that threatens that, I will speak out against. I'm going to finish this up by saying, I'm going to address the question I brought up at the very beginning. Those of you who are watching this and viewing my Facebook page and saying, Dave, what the hell happened to you? And I'm just going to answer that again, although I think I answered that during the video, but let me just sum up. Nothing's happened to me. I'm the same person I always was. I guarantee my old college friends are watching. If we were sitting in Hometown Buffet right now, we'd be having the same conversations we always have been. I'm still the same person. I have the same hobbies. I have the same likes. I laugh at the same jokes, assuming we're still allowed to laugh at jokes. You know, I've become more political than I was. I've shifted more to the right on a few issues. But fundamentally, I'm not really that different. But I hope I've done two things in this video. I hope I've given some explanation as to what makes me tick. And I hope I've given some of you at least a little pause to think. At least do some research on, what you're seeing in the media. Ask yourself if it's really true. I don't hold water for any party or any candidate. I don't own a MAGA hat, and I don't own a Trump is Hitler t-shirt. I try to evaluate issues and policies and statements as they happen in as fair and objective a way as I possibly can. No one's perfect. No one is ever unbiased. Many times, I find something our president does that I like. Sometimes he does things I don't like, that I scratch my head about. Why are you doing this? But I just try to look at things fairly. And I just ask, and that's all you can really ask, right? Okay. This video is long enough. I keep saying this is the last thing, this is the last thing. This is the last thing. Thank you for watching. And I think I want to do some more of these vlogs. Not all of them will be as serious as this, but I like this format. It's easier than typing a lot. All right. Bye all.